Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Stacker.News Live. My name's Car. I'm the BFF Keyan. How's Austin?
Hello. Austin's great. I think everyone in the office is in San Antonio for, I think, like
Oh,
opening
party.
party. Yeah, they're doing a
Yeah.
party. It's an early party though. They all left at 4, and I'm like, how dare you? I have a podcast, but oh well, they left. So
Yeah.
everything's great here. I think. I don't know. Nick keeps saying that there's going to be like a riot
Yeah.
downtown, but you know Nick is. I don't know
Yeah.
if maybe he's right though.
Yeah, he's been stressing about it all week. I haven't seen too much around because there's like this
Mm-mm.
big building structure in front of the building. So like it's just been, yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I could complain, but there's so many things to complain about. So I'll save the stackers from hearing me complain. The but yeah, G's throwing his opening party. That's gonna be fun. I'm so sad I had to miss it, but I'm in Tampa for the Bitcoin Day conference that's happening tomorrow, and then they're doing the Tampa soiree that's happening tomorrow evening,
Oh,
and then
a
there's a
soiree.
yeah, a soiree.
What's a soiree, by the way?
I don't know.
Is that like a party for pirates? What's a soiree?
I don't know. I don't know. But dude, Tampa's very, very beautiful. It's a very beautiful city. Like the infrastructure here is very nice. The roads are nice. Like everywhere you look, it's very nice. Like the people are nice. Um, yeah, it reminds me of like if Miami had like a nicer brother that was a family man, you know? It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. That's what Tampa
Hmm.
reminds me of. It's like if I was gonna
Huh?
move somewhere, I'd probably move to Tampa because I could start a family. And you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is sort of like the East Coast version of Texas. It does feel a lot.
Yeah.
My experience in Florida is it feels a lot like Texas because it's equally swampy, it's equally hot, the weather's kind of
Oh, it's
crazy.
yeah, hot for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it's very
yeah.
hot. But like people are super friendly. Everything's nice. Uh yeah, but it's just really hot. Anyways, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Very cool.
Cool.
Do you know how many people are going to be in Tampa for the Bitcoin Day?
They're having this kind of like opening party tonight. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go. I mean, I did RSVP, but I'm kind of having second thoughts because I woke up early. Like I was telling you before the show, like I woke up like at midnight, and then I just took a nap right before the show, and then now I'm kind of like want to go back to sleep because I'm so tired. Plus I got to be there like at 8 or like 9, and then I'm like one of the early speakers, so I'm just like, do you know what I mean? I'm an old
No,
man,
I know.
Keon. I'm an old man.
Don't do
Um,
that to yourself. You can't accept your old manness. You gotta keep
yeah,
trucking.
but I'd
Gotta
rather
live your.
save all that energy for all day tomorrow. You know, like I'd rather save all that energy up for all day tomorrow. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
I might change my mind. I might take a nap and then go, and then we'll see.
I mean, you don't have to like party hard or anything, but I don't really understand how people show up to conferences and like the first night they're there, they just get like, wrecked. And then they're like hungover for like 5 days during the whole conference, not sleeping. It's kind of a crazy way to live. And then you have Bitcoiners who just like go around to every conference and they do this like just week in and week out. They're just doing these benders.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
kind of
know how
crazy.
they do that. They're just like professional conference people where they don't even do anything. Like they don't work. All they do is just like go to conferences for a
Oh,
living.
it's the benefit of holding Bitcoin long enough, and then if you go to a lot of conferences, your network grows, and then people just start giving. Then you become like an influencer, and then
But
people
we
just
know
start
who
giving
they
you
are though.
equity at
Like
the
we all know
companies for free.
we all know who they are. Like we know they don't do anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think some of them do, but I mean, networking is something. I think that's just something you have to appreciate is like knowing people, being connected to people, being able to get information, like trusted information to people is like valuable. It's like it's a
I
it's a thing
guess.
that people will pay for. Yeah.
I guess.
So it's something. It's something fun, maybe, to them. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, but cool. We're gonna. If you've never seen this crazy show, it's called Stacker.News Live. We cover the front page of Bitcoin. This is our YouTube channel. If you haven't, hit to the subscribe button. Last week's um, last week's most popular video was two of them. It was the AI one where Keyan was asking, "Are you getting?" Or no, KR asked, "Are you getting dumber if you're using ChatGPT?" 151 people watched that, and then the other one was the very controversial one where I said the oh there it is. I said the Bitcoin mem pool was empty, but the obvious question it was dumb. So that one lit a that one became a whole conversation on the saloon on Sunday. Or no, was it Sunday? Yeah, it was a Sunday.
Yeah.
Me and Optimus went back and
Optimism.
forth.
Yeah,
How
he
who
went
I want to
after you.
apologize to. Apparently, I hurt his or her feelings. So apologize, Optimism. But
Hmm.
but yeah, we ended up realizing what was happening. He or she thought that I meant I need to pull up the saloon, but I don't want to look for it. But anyways, we were talking past each other, and I thought the question he thought the question meant that the way the question meant to me, this question, this post, the way this post here, let me go to it because one will post it here. The way this post reads like somebody who is posing it as what did I say in the thing? It's been a week. I don't remember.
Well, I mean, you covered
I,
it. You covered it
he
in
yeah,
the
go
podcast, right? You
yeah.
said all the points you have to make. Okay.
No, because I cleaned it up in the saloon. Go back
I
and
see.
look at the saloon on Sunday if you want to see the back and forth. But yeah. And so we came to the understanding and anyways. So if you got triggered as well, you can untrigger yourself. There you go. See,
All
Keon?
right.
I clean up my own mess.
Disclosure. Yeah. Yeah.
If
Full
you
disclosure, accountability.
if you want to if you want to see more stuff like that, and go ahead and check out these videos. We have them all here. You can see all my past mistakes, and even Keon's. He makes mistakes too every once in a while.
I'm
We
sure.
have them on record somewhere here.
Pretty sure I'm like 90% of the things I do are mistakes. So,
I'm pretty sure 100% of the things I do are mistakes. So there you go.
yeah, it's a good
Cool.
batting average. Yeah.
We're gonna jump into the top 5 stories now. The number 5 story of the week is a few Lightning Python tools for node runners. This is from Hakuna. Lightning Territory, June 9th. 4 comments, 1488 sats. Keon, what's this?
Yeah, it looks like Hakuna wrote a bunch of Python scripts that they use to manage their routing node. So Lightning routing nodes can be fairly complex in terms of managing liquidity, and especially if you're trying to make money or minimize payment failures, or just like improve your node ranking, get more people to manage to make successful payments through you. You want to manage your node well. And so a lot of Lightning node operators end up with fairly bespoke solutions. In some cases, they don't even share the solutions that they have because it becomes sort of a competitive advantage, because you figured out something on the network that no one else does, and you can generate basically more yield on your Bitcoin by routing that way. But it looks like Hakuna released a bunch of tools that they made for themselves that does a lot of this work that you'd want to do as a node runner, like when you have too much outbound liquidity, swapping out on chain so that you have more inbound liquidity. Other things like automatically modifying your fees based on certain conditions. It interacts with a bunch of tools like LNDG, which a lot of node runners use to sort of automate a lot of channel management stuff. Amboss, for like I think leasing liquidity, um, possibly buying liquidity, peer swap for the swapping. He also has even an Ellenbit script where he says he pays out his children their like allowance on an automated schedule from using Ellenbits. I don't know, just a lot of cool little tools like this. Be neat. I like that he kept them all as independent scripts, so that you can kind of just take what you want from it rather than just like one like mega tool where you have this huge unwieldy program on your computer. But anyway, I thought this was a great post. Happy to see it in the top, and then we had a few node runners in the comments talking about it a bit.
Cool.
Yeah,
Looks like you got the
you
top
never.
comment. Go ahead.
I was going to ask. You've never run a routing node, right, Car?
Not
Not yet.
professionally. No, no, not professionally.
Yeah, someday. Someday it'll be Car ready for Car.
No, I used to run a node. It just got to a point where the channel management just became too
Yeah, it's a lot.
it's a lot. I mean, I was talking to Killian from Bolts, and that was one of the questions I asked them was like, do you think that'll ever get to a point where like the average pleb runner can make that a little bit easier? And he said he said something not very controversial, just like very practical. He said no. He thinks most people will just run like Phoenix server and be connected to these bigger liquidity channels. Uh, um, you know, like and then he said something surprising. He said even his CTO um doesn't run a node. So
Whoa.
yeah, but it makes sense though. Like he probably finds the bulk of his job is
Running someone
maintenance.
else's node.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it just says the times have changed a little bit. I personally think we just need to incentivize, and this is from somebody else I was talking to for the early days podcast. Was he said that there's really no incentive for a pleb to run a node other than decentralizing the network. So I think we need to either lower the cost of running a node, fix the channel problem that we have with it, or um, um, or find some other incentives, you know, um, to doing it. So I mean, yeah, because I think you can buy like an Umbral or like a Start9. It's like $500. Um, so it's yeah. Or you could just
That's that,
or you could just run Alby. You could run a hosted node through Alby for like $10 a month, and or you can just run Phoenix, through your phone.
yeah. I want to clear up that it's not, Start9. If you're buying Start9 and Umbral nodes from them directly, on some level you are sort of like sponsoring their business, because
It's a good point.
the computers that they're selling, while they're like easy to use and they're purpose built for this, you can find comparable computers, especially used computers that have comparable specs that are much cheaper, that are like $100 to $200. If you know how to hunt for a deal. In many cases, I know there's a few people who advocate for using laptops for nodes because they have this backup power supply. Like if you're living somewhere where the power goes out occasionally, if you're using a laptop, it doesn't matter so much if it goes out because you have a laptop battery there to power your node, at least for 8 hours or so. Anyway, there's a lot of options, but I definitely think it's true that it's hard for a pleb to be a routing node manager, and I think the tooling is just going to get easier, and we'll have a variety of solutions. I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think man, it would be good to see like a $99 node out there that was just a mainstream device. I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing the bit axes sell so fast to the plebs, you know. So it would be
Yeah,
great. It would be great to see a $99 node that also was a lightning node of a sort. Do you know what I mean? that also like
Yeah.
it was like basically that you could run, connect it to your phone, had liquidity plugged into it. It does all even if it was even if it like still was kind of like slightly like a hybrid solution of a sort where it was like what am I trying to say here? Where it was still kind of a hybrid like a hybrid what am I trying to say? Where it was cloud but also um self-hosted node of a sort that was like $99 but allowed you to participate to decentralize the network. I think that would be really cool. That if that device existed, I think people would most no, a pleb would actually run that even though it was like this in between kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great initiative for someone like OpenSats or to fund someone to build like a web shop where it's sort of like a break even. They're selling break even node hardware, and they come pre-installed with something like Start9 or
Do
Umbra on it, depending
do
on
you
what the
know what I'm
license
talking
are.
about? Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about? Like where it's like maybe it's running like an actual
yeah.
node, but maybe it doesn't like keep all the transactions on it, but it can send like it can verify every I
It's a
don't know.
it's a prune node. It would be a. I think
Yeah,
the way you design it is you'd probably want to make. I think the goal, like someone who's motivated to do this and do this as like a charity, I think would probably want people to be as self sovereign as possible. But
right.
you can make these pre-configuration choices that make it so that it can run on cheaper hardware than you might find otherwise. And a lot of people aren't aware of like some of the things that you can do to make it much less resource intensive to run a node. And so that's kind of what you want is like a what would Start9 or Umbral be made like if it were not assuming if we're assuming the cheapest hardware possible and then modify them to do that and then supply the hardware necessary to run it. I think you could probably break even at like $100 a node, at least in terms of like material costs. But that would be a great initiative to decentralize the network.
Yeah,
If there's any like
that
whales out there that want a project, I think it'd be awesome.
yeah, because that's what I think you would need is like getting something like that out there to the plebs to run, and then you could even have a lightning node that just runs Alby or Phoenix, and it could be the exact it could even just be a host like a hosted one on the cloud, right? And the plebs wouldn't even know the difference. They would just think that they're running a lightning node on that same device. So that's what I'm trying to say is like somebody needs to come out with like a hybrid solution of a sort, and that way you have everybody running a node in this kind of like thing, and then you get them to come to the next level. And
Mm.
that's kind of what Apple did with the Nano. Like they released the Nano, and then that way you got everybody just getting, just using their
Gateway
play
drug.
as a
Yeah.
gateway.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
everybody just had an iPod, then an iPhone, and then changed the world. But anyways,
Yeah.
so cool
Cool.
story. Number
Yeah.
4 is economic Bitcoin nodes, why you need to use your node for it to matter. This is from Koob, June 10th, Bitcoin territory. Keyan, what's this?
Yeah, this is a post from Shinobi. I mean, this is a point that's been discussed in Bitcoin a lot, but I think people easily miss it. They don't realize the significance of the point, and so people just forget it. And so you have a lot of people running nodes who aren't even using them, and they're thinking they have some power over the network and consensus. They think they are while they're providing, perhaps if they're relaying blocks and accepting incoming connections and relaying transactions, while they might be providing some services to the network and helping the network, just be more resilient, they are not. If they're not doing any transactions with their node, if they're running a node but keeping all their coins on Coinbase or something, or they're just not even transacting in Bitcoin at all, their node isn't really doesn't have any power or say over consensus. And so what you end up with is in the case where we have a fork of some kind, or there are some contention over consensus, who ends up having most of the power are the people who are actually using Bitcoin, transacting with it, buying things with it, selling things for it, and validating those transactions on their node. And so when the time comes that we have a consensus change, they can change their consensus rules or not change their consensus rules. And then anyone doing business with them has to decide whether they want to stop doing business with them or they want to change their consensus rules to be consistent. And so that's why it's economic nodes matter more in terms of consensus than not. And this post elaborates on that, has some examples, and it explains it for people. But it's just a very subtle point. It's very easy to miss. And so you see a lot of people I would say the majority of Bitcoiners don't understand this point. So you see a lot of people on X and stuff who are talking about they're running this version of the Bitcoin protocol and this implementation, and they're resistant to a soft fork upgrade, and that they're not gonna upgrade their node. But it just doesn't matter because they're not even doing anything with their node. They're just simply running a node. It's just like sucking up electricity and maybe providing blocks, relaying blocks and transactions for the network at best. So it's an important point for people to understand. If you actually want power in Bitcoin consensus, you need to be using your Bitcoin with your own node, and validating your own rules. And so that's what this post is about. It's a great reminder, I think, especially among all the kind of stuff we're seeing around some standardness rules in terms of mempool policy. But I wanted to share it because I think it's just a point that needs to be made over and over again.
I think that's maybe in the past what I've heard Chris Guida say, I think. Or am I mishearing that? I feel like I've heard that. I feel like I've heard other developers say that in the past before.
Yeah, they say it's like
just from hanging out with like other developers. I feel like I've heard Chris Guida say that to me a couple times. I don't remember in what context, but I feel like I've heard him for sure say that before.
Yeah, a lot of. I mean, anyone who understands the dynamics of consensus know that it's the economic nodes who really matter. And so most developers who have been in Bitcoin for a bit will have a grip of that.
Simple Stacker said, not sure 100% follow the logic. Is he trying to say that decentralized node running is useless if economic activity is centralized? That's probably true, question mark, but I'm not really sure because I'm entirely convinced that Bitcoin's value is tied to the amount of economic activity it's being used for. Bitcoin right now is seen as an attractive store of value because of its hard money characteristics. Even if big players like Coinbase creates a fork, if that fork softens the hard money properties of Bitcoin, I don't think that fork would retain the same value. It has everything to do with Bitcoin's properties, not the amount of economic activity it's used for. Yeah. And then, yeah, it seems like you lay it out for him again, I guess.
Yeah, we talk about it a bit more. I think he's a Simple Stacker is an economist, and I think is viewing it through the lens of an economist, and not, I think, missing because we talk about economic nodes. He thinks it has to do more with economics than it does maybe like technical consensus things. And so he comes at it from an economic point of view. But I think his point is valid in that the characteristics of the money will ultimately decide which is more valuable. But the value is independent of like what the rules are of what is considered Bitcoin at any time. Although not completely independent, they're somewhat intermeshed, but you can it's easier to think about them independently. And so we just get into it a little bit, and like what I try to explain a little more what Shinobi is getting to in the article about economic nodes and what we mean by economic nodes, and clear up any confusion about it. And I think, yeah, we come to I think he comes to understand it, and I come to understand his point, which is valid, which is that even if like a certain soft fork wins, or the perception is that it wins because there's more economic activity on it at some time, even the smaller the smaller network might eventually prevail if it has better monetary characteristics, and people decide over time that it's worth storing more value there. It becomes a little more complicated of an argument, but it was a good conversation.
Cool. The number three top story of the week is Coinos auto withdrawal exploit. This is from EK, 32 comments, 1930 sats. Lightning territory, June 8th. Keyan, what happened here?
Yeah, so there were a few reports. I saw these on Nostr when they first happened before EK even posted them, but I didn't really want to start sharing them until I was certain about what happened. But then EK went and I think he found a few more people who had this issue. But it looked like someone got, or one attacker got unauthorized access to a few people's CoinOS accounts. And then with that access to their CoinOS account, what they did was they changed their auto withdrawal address. So CoinOS as its custodial service has this feature that allows you to, when you reach a SAT limit, like Stacker.News had or has, it allows you to draw somewhere else, maybe somewhere that's less custodial. And this attacker kind of subtly changed everyone's not everyone, but like I think they said 10 people's auto withdrawal address on CoinOS. So it's safe to assume they didn't have access to all CoinOS users, but they had access to a few of them, and they changed it so their auto withdrawals would go to their account. And so these people were using their CoinOS account like normal, and this attacker was basically collecting the auto withdrawals on them for a moment. And so the bullish Bitcoiner noticed this, and a few other people. And then it seemed also that CoinOS's Nostr private key was also in the possession of this attacker, because the attacker also took over control of CoinOS's Nostr account. And so it made it a bit complicated for them to inform people of this change, but it seems to be resolved. Like the last update that we have is shared by Optimism here in the thread. And CoinOS's conclusion is that this was related to an attack that happened back in January, where they had a vulnerability in their password reset functionality, and the attacker was getting access to a bunch of people's accounts. And their conclusion was that the attacker had sat on access to a bunch of accounts. And then basically did this like low and slow approach where they just changed these auto withdrawal addresses. And so CoinOS said that they went and forced all of those accounts to reset their password, and they believe that those accounts just had really weak passwords that allowed the attacker to get access. Or that was an alternative explanation. Rather than the attacker sitting on accounts, they had found a way to brute force into certain accounts with weak passwords. Anyway, it's a bit of a complicated mess, but it appears to not be like a system level breach, more so an attack that succeeded to a small degree against CoinOS, and somehow they also got access to CoinOS's Nostr private key, which is kind of, I don't know where they would have gotten that in this process, but it looks like CoinOS is like Nostr account. If you go to it now, this is like the last update they had, was the one that Optimism shared, and their old Nostr account is pretty much defunct. The NIPO 5 doesn't verify anymore, and if you go to their website, they have a new npub that has no activity on it yet. So, but it seems to be resolved. I also went in CoinOS's Telegram group and tried to see if there was any updates in there. But this seems to be like the final conclusion of the whole debacle. Like CoinOS has a lot of users, and so there's a lot of customer support. And so I think this is a relatively minor incident.
Are they a private company, Keyan, CoinOS? Like, or did they raise money? Do you know?
I don't even know if they're a company at all. I think it might just be a dude who's running it. I know they're based in Canada, possibly in Vancouver, because they do a lot of work with the like circular economy in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
But might not even be a company at all. Might just be a dude providing basically an Uncle Jim node to a
To the
bunch of
plebs.
Bitcoiners.
Yeah. Interesting.
Plebs.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to see where this story goes. I mean, it's always fascinating to me, like these, because I've been watching Coinos just kind of. I mean, I remember the first time I heard about it was some guy came up to me at a meetup last year, and he's like, "Yo, Car, have you seen this? Have you seen this app?" And I was like, "What app is that?" And he's like, "CoinOS." He's like, "It's fucking custodial." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "How is that possible?" And he's like, "Check it out." And he was like showing me all the stuff that you could do on it. I was like, "Bro, there's no way that's real." I was like, "That's impossible." And he goes, "No, download it." I was like, "I'm not downloading that." And then and then like almost immediately, like 3 or 4 months later, I think we were talking about it on the show, and then little by little, this CoinOS like thing has like taken a life of its own, and so it's been fun to watch. Like from the very first moment I heard about it, it was so controversial, to now it's hasn't let up, and that's the CoinOS story that Car has experienced from the very beginning.
Yeah, they've been. I mean, they've been around for quite a while, but it's basically serving the function that Wallet of Satoshi served,
Uh,
and Alby served for a long time, and Stacker.News to a smaller extent when we were all custodial and
yeah.
serving U.S. customers. CoinOS is now currently serving that need. It'd be great to get on early days. But the first, the founder would be great. But the first time I heard of CoinOS was, I think it was shortly after Stacker.News launched. There was I think it was a user account. I still remember the name. It was Nobody was the user account. I think they've long since left Stacker.News, but they said they were using CoinOS to create a bunch of Stacker.News accounts, because CoinOS allowed you to do like L and auth, like every one of your accounts on CoinOS allowed you to do L and auth. And he said, I'm able to create all these L and auth accounts on Stacker.News, and that was when I first encountered CoinOS, and I thought that was pretty. I thought it was a pretty neat service, but it's been around since Stacker.News existed, maybe
Really?
before.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. I just found out about it like a year ago. Wow. Dang.
Yeah, and he's right. The founder's like riding with, with the whole crew out in Vancouver. If he does podcasts, I think he'd be a great get. He probably has
He
some really
shouldn't do
interesting views.
podcasts. Yeah, I'll reach out to him, see what he says. Awesome. What was I gonna say? Let me go back. The number two top story of the week is debt, leverage, and the fiat come to Bitcoin. This is from Siggy47. Bitcoin territory, June 11th, 2037 sats, 13 comments. Keyan, what's this?
Yeah, Siggy shared a blog post that was sort of a recap of this blogger's experience at Bitcoin 2025 in Las Vegas, and his conclusion is that it sounds like he was spending a lot of time at the main stage, because this was not the experience I had, but it sounds like his conclusion was that most of the conference was about like the old financial institutions sort of migrating kind of to Bitcoin. You have debt, you have stable coins. They're kind of, at least kind of, this kind of modernization of kind of fiat mechanisms happening on Bitcoin or surrounding Bitcoin. And he's kind of expresses this as sort of like a maturation step, and he's relatively pro stablecoin, or I would say outwardly pro stablecoin. He thinks it is the bridge to the future, at least. And then he also talks quite a bit about debt, and how a lot of this modernization, or this like the fiatization of Bitcoin, is really bringing a lot of like fiat debt stuff to Bitcoin. Like, like all the treasury companies, they're all super leveraged in an effort to buy Bitcoin. They're doing these speculative attacks, and then a lot of the a lot of the Bitcoin companies that are headed by people like Jack Mallers, some of the most famous people. They're all playing with getting out loans backed by your Bitcoin, which has been a thing in Bitcoin for a long time, but is now, I think, really becoming popular. And Jack is pushing this to many of his retail customers. He's encouraging them to do this. Anyway, it's like kind of an interesting perspective. This is maybe uh, a kind of, I would say, like a normal finance guy's view of pro Bitcoin, but not really too concerned about uh, some of these more traditional systems arriving at Bitcoin. This is like their view of Bitcoin at the moment, and it's probably what Bitcoin is like Bitcoin is for this person right now, as far as I can tell, for the most part. And Siggy Cheddar, one of the quotes I just wanted to share real quick that I really caught my attention was Mike Benz, who does a lot of work on internet freedom and free speech stuff. But he says that one of the reasons why stable coins are going to win is because they're very similar to what made a lot of these multinational corporations like Pepsi and Coke win decades ago, and it's that they're like enmeshed in the American empire. Like a lot of the head stablecoin people are involved in the current administration, and so they are, in becoming enmeshed, the stablecoins are becoming a tool for statecraft, is how he describes um, what Pepsi and Coke were. Like Americans' empire is exercising its influence through Pepsi and Coke and Nike and all these corporations they help spread through the world, and it's going to do the same with stablecoins. And that is how stablecoins are going to become a big thing, because now you have this alliance with basically the American military, the American dollar, the American government's need to maintain its empire and dominance in the world. I thought that was pretty convincing. But yeah, overall, at least a good think piece. Even for us, like hipster coiners.
um, yeah, I think, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about this. So let me kind of just explain this in like a way to where um it's not so like out there, because I feel like every time I
Mm-hmm.
try to go into these long car rants, people take it the wrong way, and then feelings get hurt, and then everybody always says, "Oh, car, you're so, you know, crazy, but we love you." Um, I think I think the biggest, I'll just say this, like, I think hats off to all the people who are part of of moving Bitcoin forward. The Maulers, the Baileys, the Lynn Aldens, like all these people. Like, I'm so proud of these people. I think the work that they do is tremendous. Elizabeth Stark, like all these people. I mean, Lord knows that they put a lot of work and time and effort into what they do, and I'm not taken away from that. I think that's tremendous. I think they really do care about Bitcoin. I think the future that they're looking at really does, you know, I really do think they have their heart in the right place. And I really do think what they're when they're doing these things, I think they genuinely think they're leading Bitcoin into the right place. And I think all of what you said, Keon, I think is very logical, it's very practical, and I think it's a normal way to look at where the world is moving to. It's a normal way to where an average person would say, yes, this is a logical next step for Bitcoin. Now, having said that, um, I'm gonna politely disagree. Um, and this is just Carr, and how he views things. So this story came out this week. It was the Stripe Substack story that Rothbardi and Fanatic posted, and Stripe is now demanding, and I'll tie this all back together, and I think people will understand where I'm coming from. Stripe is now demanding um, a credit review from some Substack authors that have been targeted for their conservative, anti-vax type of, I guess you could call them stances that they've been receiving money from their readers, right? And so for the longest time, Substack has been known as this free speech platform. They've always been on the pro author side, like, hey, you can come publish here. No one's going to, Glenn Greenwald was a big proponent of Substack, and so they've always said, hey, we're not going to censor you. Stripe, as you know, like Stripe is a big censor. I know this because in the early days of Plub Lab, we were censored by Stripe. So I never trusted Stripe, but personally, like, and then we know other Bitcoin companies have been censored by Stripe. So we've known as Bitcoiners that Stripe has always been on the other side of that. So yeah, they've been sending out emails, and it looks like they're softly telling people that you got to go, and there are some requirements, and there's KYC and all this stuff. What I'm trying to say here is, like, this weaponization that Stripe has right now, this is like the softest form of kind of how would you say, this is the softest form of tyranny that we have right now for somebody not getting paid for the services that they provide for receiving money in the United States. When we start getting stable coins on the Bitcoin network, and we start getting paid through the Bitcoin network, what do you think is going to happen? Like, when everything starts working on the Bitcoin network and AI is functioning, like, this is all going to be automated. Like, everything is going to be automated all of a sudden, and it's no more going to be about, like, there's not going to be a soft, like, checkpointing. I'm going to call it a choke point anymore. There's not going to be a soft choke point that's going to be a Stripe. It's literally just going to be an automatic, like, guess what, Car? You're not getting your Bitcoin today because you made some controversial remarks on SNL. You're not getting paid. Like, it's going to be that sort of, like, censorship that's going to happen on the network if we keep heading down this way. And that's the thing that fears me the most, in regards to where we're headed with this kind of future that we're talking about here. Because if the technology keeps moving in this direction and everything is transacting in this way with stable coins and everything like that, we're looking at automatic censorship. We're looking at AI that's just knowing everything and connecting all metadata, and connecting everything about KYC, AML. And we're not having these soft choke points anymore with, like, Stripe and stuff. We're having it literally on our phones, on the network that we love, that is a Bitcoin network. And that's the thing that I really fear the most. I really fear that that world is coming into fruition, and I don't want to not get paid for saying something controversial or writing something controversial like these people are experiencing right now on Substack, just because I happen to have a different opinion or disagree politely from somebody else. And that's the thing that I fear right now with us heading towards this kind of direction. And I think most people are not thinking about this future because I think most people aren't thinking about it, and that's kind of where I stand on it right now.
Yeah, no, I think it's consistent with especially with the article's point of view. But I think the tie-in to Bitcoin is suggests why it should be troubling to Bitcoiners to some degree how how intermeshed we're getting with systems that we know, um, especially when things get tough, can oppress people and oppress Bitcoiners and oppress dissent, especially as like the world is kind of heating up in terms of like disagreement about who's in control. the globe right now. Things should get weirder, I expect. But I haven't read this article yet, the one from Brownstone written by Robert Malone. He says I don't know. He says that it appears to target conservatives. So I at least in the first paragraph. And so I was trying to look for where the evidence of the targeting is, and I can't tell where that comes from. And so I wonder if he just feels. I wonder if he reached out and did like a sample of other conservative people, and then sampled maybe people who are pro-vaccination, and they said they didn't get this check. I don't know, but I mean, I'm also not disagreeing with. There's like obviously precedent behind Stripe politically targeting people, which he links to in the post. But
Yeah, but Rothbardian fanatic is a longtime stacker. Like he's somebody that I recognize as a stacker. So he's not one to post uh something
but
that's
he, I mean,
not.
it's in his name. He is a fanatic, and it is. I read a lot of his stuff that he shares, and he does have a political point of view.
Yeah.
So and so I'm not disagreeing with it, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just couldn't easily find
Yeah.
where the targeting happens, and it's I like to be a
Yeah.
little demanding of evidence sometimes. But anyway, I think your point stands. Is like all of these things are bad. Like it doesn't like I don't even if he's not being targeted right now, him needing to provide more information just to accept money from people who want to give him money is, I think, unfair. I just think he should be able to have customers, and there's no reason Stripe should be deciding whether he can have customers or not. There's no reason. The government should be saying, especially if he's not doing anything illegal, he's literally just selling information. The government shouldn't be saying that he can't receive money from customers to give them information. So,
But imagine when Stripe is an LSP and it's trying to pay you your stable coins or even some Lightning or some Sats. Like imagine when that happens and it sees Cube and it says like cannot pass through here. What does that look like then at that point? That's what I'm
well,
trying to say.
yeah, hopefully,
And
I mean that.
and has to find a different route. And then it incentivizes those different routes to not pay you as well too, because it's like now you're on that. It's not an OFAC list, but maybe it's like a ban list.
You're on the
It's like
black market, the
no,
lightning black market.
you're on a gray list.
Yeah,
Let's just
gray
call it a
list.
gray list, and you're on a gray list because you don't subscribe to the dollar hegemony. Um, you know, you're not on that. You're not talking like everybody else, right? You don't subscribe to everybody else's the thought police basically, and so you're on this kind of gray list. And then guess what? They incentivize other nodes. They pay in Sats for other nodes to not route these people as well too. So now other people are not routing you either, are not routing your payments. So what do you do then? That's what I'm trying to say. Like I don't think people are recognizing where this is headed. And this is not me just being paranoid. This is just me being just like these people, very practical about where these kind of, it's just me playing the tape. It's like, okay, so we do this, then this. Okay, so what happens when you disagree with this said plan? Well, then this happens. Well, then okay, that happens, then this happens. Well, then what incentivizes these people to, oh, well, then this, and then you just kind of keep playing the tape out. And it's just like, you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
unfortunate, but this is kind of where we're kind of going. And it's just, I don't think people are recognizing what's going to happen here because right now they get along with us, and this is kind of, I think most people have said this. Right now the administration gets along with us, but what happens when we have like an AOC or a Bernie Sanders or you
President
know
AOC.
or like a Mrs. Obama or like one of these other people who absolutely despise people that are on the opposite side of their opinion. So I'm just saying, like, it's gonna get
Yeah,
weird, man.
yeah, it's definitely going to get weird. But I mean, this is why the core of Bitcoin are still Bitcoin. That's why we all, a lot of us work on or think a lot about the privacy side of Bitcoin, think a lot about the censorship resistant side of Bitcoin, and that is like the focus of people who are not engaging in these kind of these like fiat side quests. And so when that time comes, that we're kind of ready, and including like there's a lot of people who are thinking that the relaxation of the regulations around Bitcoin are like forever, like what's happening in the administration. And I don't think so. I think it's really a bad idea for Bitcoiners to get complacent and imagine that, because it will swing back the other way. And even if it's not in America, it'll certainly other countries will begin taking a hostile view to Bitcoin, and we want Bitcoin to be ready for the people that reside in those countries to fight back and still be able to preserve their ability to transact and
Yeah, I just want to be
maintain
able
a
to
life.
freely transact, man. I want to be able to freely transact and be able to freely say what I want to say without being censored. Um, I think that's the thing that we need to make sure that we have tools and we have that at the top of everybody's mind, because um, I think that's the most important thing, and we can't lose sight of it as um, you know as things keep progressing forward. Um, so,
Cool. Well,
all
that
right,
was a
cool.
good, some good rants we had there.
Cool. The number one story of the week is Nostr Game Engine. This is from Nostr Game Engine 22 hours ago. Nostr territory. A comments 13,000 sets. Keyan, what's this?
Yeah, so this is RBLB spun up a separate account. I don't know why they did that, but they spun up a separate account. RBLB actually was a contractor for Stacker.News for a few months earlier, I think late last year. Really great developer, very ambitious, and yeah, did a lot of awesome stuff for Stacker.News. And so I was super excited to see that he got a OpenSats grant, and his OpenSats grant is for this Nostr game engine thing, which uh, uses a project that he was already contributing to, an open source game engine that he was already contributing to, and basically Nostrifies it. And the main Nostr component is, I think, involves authentication, but primarily like peer-to-peer communication. So when you're playing a game where you're interacting with other people in the game, like most modern games, you play these online games and you're interacting with other people, you want to connect to them over the internet so you can send data to each other and messages and stuff. And usually how this works is there's like a central computer that you kind of coordinate this connection with the person that you're playing with. And what he's doing instead is using Nostr relays for that coordination and allowing people to establish a peer-to-peer connection to each other. So that way your game is, and your connection to your peers is more fault tolerant. It's also your connection to your friends and your games are, more 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 durable. You're not going to be, if Car gets censored from, I don't know, Valve or something, who might maintain one of these coordination servers, Car can't interact with his friends anymore. But in this case, it kind of avoids that property, and you can connect directly to your friends in a more censorship-resistant way. It uses a lot of open technology, and including this game engine, it uses WebRTC, which I believe powers probably is powering the stream right now. You and me connecting to each other and sending video to each other. That's how a lot of these online video chat systems work, and it's using that technology underneath it. And he did this. This is his first release from it. Only a few weeks after he announced the roadmap, he produced it. He's a very generative developer. He moves very fast, and it has a little demo showing it working already, and it runs in. It's a Java app. So you go to their GitHub, you can download it, and you can experience the demo and kind of see a glimpse of what it'll be. But I think it'll be really cool. I don't do a lot of gaming, so I have a bit of a hard time kind of imagining it in like a modern gaming context because I don't spend a lot of time doing it. But I've done enough of it to know that I think this will be really popular, and so I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, this might be the most ambitious thing I've ever seen come out of Nostr since Nostr. I'm very excited about this. And I haven't been excited about Nostr in a really long time. I'm not just saying
Let's
that like just to be mean. I'm saying that because I'm being honest. Like I remember when I first talked to William. Um, when was it? I forget what it was, but it was a long time ago. And when he was telling me that he had an idea for Nostr, um, he said that he had another idea, and it was around VR. And he thought that Nostr and VR could be the same thing. Do you remember when he was saying that?
Yeah, I remember. He's big on like metaverse stuff. I remember.
And this looks exactly like that. It just took like I think I talked to him at 22, maybe.
No, yeah, it was very early. It's like right when it was like before Jack joined Noster. It was
But
like a
this
few
looks
months old.
exactly what he described. Dude, this could be huge. Especially with all the AR stuff that's taking off now. And then if he can swing this by the time we get to 26, like we could literally be in a Noster world, like a VR world next year maybe if he can swing this by then. That would be so cool, man.
Yeah, this is a lot of the other stuff that a lot of people are like. It's not so much about the notes. It's about the other stuff. And this is I think the other stuff is. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot is like this very reminiscent of NWC where it's using it's sort of it's using these Nostr relays sort of like um, what we call turn servers, where these like coordination points on the internet, where you can get access. Sort of you and me, our computers might be behind NATs, and we don't know each other's IP addresses.
Yeah,
We don't have a public IP address.
yeah,
We can determine how to reach each other if we can
right.
find a shared area on the internet and exchange information about how to connect to each other. And so that's what
Where
we're kind of seeing a lot for these relays right now.
where is this guy out of? Like where is he from? Or where is he do we know his like
I mean, I don't want to dox him
but is he in
or
America or
anything.
is he like out of country or something?
He's a he's a Bitcoiner. He lives in Bitcoin land. I don't know.
Man, I would love him to come to Pleb Lab, man.
Hmm.
Come build us in Pleb Lab.
I think he likes I think he likes his peace, his solitude,
Yeah.
and just likes hacking. He's just likes head down building. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's coming to Pleb Lab anytime soon.
Okay. I mean, I feel like these are the type of projects I like inside of Pleb Lab. They're just so
Yeah. So
ambitious.
yeah, very cool.
Man, look at this. Yeah, totally love it. I love it. Yeah, because you could
Yeah, I
see
haven't.
it. Yeah, you could see a
Oh,
world where this could exist, and screw talking on freaking all these other stupid social things. Like, put on the Nostr headset, like, go out into the Nostr world, and like start talking amongst the community, and then like start experiencing Nostr in the virtual world. Like, that would be cool, man. You know what I mean?
yes, I do know what you mean. I think it's
That would
pretty.
be really cool.
I'm with you. I think it's really awesome. I'm looking forward to it. He has a roadmap on his the
Yeah,
website he's made.
yeah, we're looking at it right now behind us.
Yeah, he's
So
plans to
cool.
add monetization to it, um, so that there is some incentives for people who are helping with the coordination um, here. And then he's going. He's going to make it run in browsers. He's going to do iOS and Mac OS. He has a really big, ambitious roadmap here, but I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't actually played the game yet because it requires me to download it and run a program on my computer, which I do not like to do without reading the code, doing some analysis at least. And yeah, so I haven't run it yet, but you can just check out the demo. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, if yeah, this might be the most bullish thing I'm yeah, this might be the most bullish. This might be the most bullish thing I've seen on Nostr
Very
in a
cool.
really long time. I probably since the early. Remember they were doing the music stuff on Nostr in the early days of it. They were doing some really cool music stuff. Do you remember
I
that?
think they're still doing it. They're still. I
Are they
mean,
still
what
doing
do you
it?
mean?
Like no,
The live stuff?
no, not that stuff. They were doing like they were like making music tracks on Nostr.
Oh, and like yeah, and people were kind of they were composing music together.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
was really cool. But I think
yeah,
a lot of that stopped. But I thought that was really interesting because it was like it was all around the edges of it, and it was really cool. Like that's where you're gonna find all the fruit. Like it's gonna be the stuff on the edges that, and most of it's not gonna work, right? But it's still gonna be
mhm,
around there, and then because that's the thing that is gonna lead to the J curve. It's gonna be those things, and this I think this man this has a lot of potential. Gosh, that's so cool. I saw it got posted on Stacker.News, but I didn't bother looking at it because I saw I saw the thing and I was like, oh, it just looks like a login screen, but I didn't click on the roadmap.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely one to watch, and knowing RBLB, he'll be shipping updates fast, and so he's gonna hammer through this roadmap.
Yeah, this. How many more people does he have helping him with this? Is it just him by himself, or is it more?
It's just him. No,
Oh
just him. I
wow,
think.
dude!
You know, he got an OpenSets grant. I think it was announced a few, maybe 2-3 months ago. I think,
Wow,
and yeah.
people should be running to him to help him on this, be a part of history. That's what I would say.
Well, I mean, hopefully, we get some people pumped up about it. I think, 'cause I think it's a bit of a sleeper unless you kind of really, unless you really look at it. But he's getting there to the point where the demo is going to be excellent, and so all you need is a few people doing like videos of them playing some early games with it, and it'll blow
Dude, I
up.
could see this being so big. I could see this being so big. Yeah, this might be the thing that gets Nostr on the map.
Yeah, might push it over the
This
edge.
yeah, this might be the thing because it's like it's that thing that like everybody goes to when they're like, "What's Nostr?" And they're like, "Oh, it's that game you're playing." And they're like, "Really?" And they didn't even know. And then that's how they discover everything else. They're like, "Yeah, you can use your same login for that to log into this other app." Really? And like that's how they like figure out that they can use the same login for everything. And you're like, so those things called sats in that game, I can pay for my steak and shake burger with. I'm just like, yeah, man. Did you not know that? Telling
Yeah,
you. Anyways,
pretty
cool.
cool.
We're gonna jump into your stories. You had the first one you had was the let's go with the ZEUS one, the ZEUS privacy one. What's that?
Yeah, it looks like Anon had some questions about using ZEUS with the embedded node and how to make sure their usage of it was private. Just any kind of tips and tricks they could get to make it a little more private. And I like the question as a simple question. And Darth Coin fortunately chimed in and gave him some tips. He says only open simple taproot channels, which have quite improved privacy over normal channels, or the SegWit channels. And then he says to open private channels with ZEUS's LSP. He says also to buy inbound from them because it'll be it'll be more on the information revealed will be more so on their side. And then he describes just like sort of making sure payments are uh, effective, and how many channels you should open. Another privacy technique he suggests is using multi-part payments, where you split your payment on several routes where it eventually arrives at the destination, and that way your channel partners or anyone cannot see how what amount you're actually sending to the destination. Just a a marginal but important privacy enhancement. Anyway, just some great tips in there, and there's some back and forth. Nick Nikotsla also has a few recommendations, but I like questions like these because these are the things that I think that make a big difference over
Zeus.
time for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why Zeus is so powerful, man. Yeah. Cool. The next
Yeah.
one that you had was um let's go with the Apple WWDC one. You like the liquid glass?
Yeah, I like the liquid glass. I have to find this.
It
Let me
was a
see
Mac
if I
Rumors post that you had for I think it was on Wednesday.
can.
I'm just gonna point out the thing that I think everybody kind of pointed out who's from our era is the Windows Aero Windows 7 Vista comparison. I don't know if it got pointed out in this Mac Rumors post, but me and Oliver were talking about it in the lab, and then I think Sam came in that day and he was like, Windows 7, and I was like, Windows Vista. It looks totally reminiscent of that. I feel like Apple always takes from Windows. Did you not see that
Hmm.
comparison?
No, I have not seen that comparison. I'm
Oh,
trying
wow. I
to.
would have thought you saw it.
Okay, this is an Engadget. I found an Engadget post where they talk about this, where they say Apple's Liquid Glass is Windows Vista done well, is the title
Oh,
of
is
the
that what they
Engadget.
said? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but oh yeah, because there's quite a bit of transparency in
Yeah,
Windows
it's not
Vista. I think is the
entirely
idea.
like it, but it's very reminiscent. But they did the
Suggestive,
same
yeah.
thing. But Apple did the same thing with Zune, where they stole the Zune font and the styling as well too. At some point, I forget where they stole it, but they did that as well too. Um,
Yeah, I mean, they did a. I think the hardware that we have now and the technology around graphics have improved a lot. So if you look at a lot of the liquid glass stuff, the effects are incredible. Like how much it actually looks like glass over glass, and like light going through glass, and uh, or or like a sort of like an oil, a clear oil is kind of what it looks like. I think it's pretty awesome.
mm.
And I think it's like the thing I was saying before the show is like it's like it's on trend. Like right now, the trend right now, or at least for the last few years, is like very monochrome, um, in general. And this is kind of in line with that, but then it like takes it a step further, and it's like no, it's even simpler. It's like it has no color at all. um, and I just think that's kind of interesting. It's like they kind of one upped people. And I also have gotten kind of tired of all the colorful icons. You kind of just need a break. It's been like over a decade of this kind of static iOS thing, and I think at least as a break, maybe they go back to some other thing. As a break, it's nice to have something new to look at.
Yeah, it does feel like everything's going like mono, very like how would you call them? Very very I don't want to say stale, but very like
Simple, I would say
not
simple,
simple, but very
primitive.
nah, just very watercolorish,
Hmm.
pastelish like
That's
colors.
definitely on the
Yeah.
menu too. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine. It's just very not in your face. Um
I I really like the monochrome thing. I think it was in New York City, like I don't know, like 2016 or something, and I saw this lady walking around with this. She had a navy blue trench coat, and she had a navy blue shirt, and then like all slightly different colors of navy blue pants, navy blue. She wasn't a gangster or anything. She was just a small Asian lady, and a navy blue beanie, and maybe white sneakers. Maybe she also, but it's a very cool look. How incredible, like how matchy it is, and just there's something about it that I really enjoyed. So I actually kind of like the monochrome trend. Not that I participate in much fashion or trend stuff, but I enjoy that things, and I
You
think it's
enjoy
cool.
looking at it.
Yes, exactly. I enjoy appreciating it.
Yeah. I I uh I I am I don't know. I definitely enjoy the pastel colors and the watercolor stuff. I don't know how I feel about the glass thing yet. It kind of reminds me of skeuomorphism a little bit in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah,
So I'm not entirely sure about it. I'm gonna have to wait and see. That's my typical answer. I need to see it on the phone to see if I can tell already I'm gonna like it for Safari, just because Safari is gonna be so much better to view. So definitely gonna like it for Safari. I just don't know if it's gonna yeah, I just don't know how it's gonna look on the phone. So I was impressed with the iPad though. I think the iPad looks way, 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 way more functional now to be a laptop. Not I'm not gonna say a replacement, but definitely a laptop um to get work done now. I feel
yeah.
like
With
it's
the
definitely
Windows.
progressed. Yeah, it's definitely progressed, but yeah.
Yeah, I think for a large portion of the market, uh, they'll probably end up using iPads over like desktop computers, which is kind of sad for me because I like the rawness of a computer, but we're just going further and further away from that over time, and it's just going to get. I mean, eventually it'll just be all voice commands, and you won't even have to look at a screen. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, we have these screens with these buttons you press on them, and
Yeah,
that's just
well,
what it
just the
is.
amount of stuff that you can do in browser now, like it's just kind of amazing that you can do all these things inside of a browser. Like you can do editing with video now, editing with audio, and like the places that you're going, and now with OpenAI stuff, like you're just able to do a lot more multimedia stuff in the browser that you just couldn't do, 3, 4 years ago. So you don't really have to carry this big machine anymore unless yeah,
Yeah.
it's different. Cool. The other one that you had was the Michael Saylor, Jordan Peterson um video. I saw this one, but like I said earlier, I didn't see the second one.
Yeah, I saw. Well, I watched both. So I shared it with a sort of bearish sentiment, because I was a little bit. I'd seen Jordan Peterson giving interviews, and I found his point of view sort of tired. I just he's kind of repeating the same thing. Continuing to talk a little too much about, I think, political issues that are just over. Um,
Who, Jordan
and
Peterson or Michael Saylor?
uh, Jordan Peterson. Because I'm like kind of tired of his point of view. It's already been expressed a million times, and so I got I just got kind of exhausted by him in general. And I hadn't listened to him for a while. And then his podcast also got relatively slimy, like a bunch of ads, and he's just kind of. But anyway, I was surprised by this. It looks like he sort of got back to normal Jordan Peterson thing where he's kind of looking at something with fresh eyes and trying to analyze it. And it's nice to see his mind work because he does have he's very thoughtful. And so the first interview which you said you saw, he does somewhat of a deep dive into Saylor's background, which I hadn't really seen before. Like he's talking to him about his mother. So this is it's really interesting because Peterson's background is being a psychologist to people like Michael Saylor. That was like his professional background. So he's actually like sort of psychoanalyzing him publicly.
That was my favorite
And
part of the whole thing. Like my
yeah,
favorite part was that
yeah,
first 30 minutes where he's like
yeah,
just we're just viewing in on this like psychiatrist session. That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I was just like, oh man. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but then it, so then eventually they get around to talking about technology, and then eventually Bitcoin stuff, and um, even there, I found Saylor was not as sort of belligerent about MicroStrategy and fiat and debt as he normally is. Like when he has like a 5 minute CNBC clip or whatever. I thought he was pretty thoughtful with it on a relative basis, and so I was surprised by that because I had also kind of soured on Michael Saylor because I felt like he'd become sort of a broken record and sort of had lost the plot on Bitcoin, and was kind of leading a lot of impressionable people astray. Was kind of how I felt. But I don't, maybe that's just the format issue because and then what I saw on CNBC. I mean, I think there's still a lot to be skeptical about Saylor, but I felt like he did a great job in this interview. And then the second interview, I signed up because you had to be on Daily Wire member to sign. So I paid for a month and then canceled my subscription immediately just so I could watch the last like half an hour. And something that surprised me was Saylor advocates for people storing their own Bitcoin, holding their own keys towards the end. Like Jordan Peterson's like, what's the message? What's like the total message? And he's like, if you're young, he's basically like, if you're young enough, you should just own the property. You should possess it yourself. You should maintain that optionality and be self-sovereign. And then he really only says that the other instruments are for people who are maybe not prepared to take responsibility for themselves or maybe a little later in life and either want less risk or want less responsibility. And so he kind of tiers it as like if you're young, you want to hold the Bitcoin yourself in a self-sovereign way, the way we like it. If you're sort of middle-aged and you're not really certain about technology and stuff, you maybe want the ETF because it's a little more raw. And he's like, if you're kind of wild about equity stuff and like taking big risks and, like some of this geeky, stock stuff, he's like, that's when you get into these treasury companies and you can begin to become sort of a speculator. But I hadn't heard him like break it down in that way before, and so I thought that was nice too. Anyway, I don't want to sing Saylor's praises too much because I don't want to
I
make
don't
it
think
seem
I've
like I
I don't
support
think
him in
I've
any
ever
way. But
I don't think I've ever heard him say that before publicly.
yeah, it
That's
was
wild.
not it was nice because I think it was he realized it was like going to be in a deep cut and people weren't going to hear it. And maybe he didn't feel like he needed to be full blown MicroStrategy salesman or something. I don't know, but I appreciated that he had a more nuanced point of view than he otherwise presents. And as I was saying before, I don't mean I kind of hate saying nice things about people because people begin to assume I support everything they say or do. But I did appreciate certain things that were said in this Jordan Peterson one, and I found it very entertaining.
Yeah, the I think for me the most fascinating part was the first, like you said, the first 30 minutes where he was kind of doing his thing. Peterson was, and I thought that was great. Like you can even tell he was just like taking notes or whatever. It was great. It was the most
Yeah,
entertaining thing ever. It was just like Peterson was doing work. It was awesome. I loved it because I was interested too. I
yeah,
was like, why are you like? And he did this thing where he got the pin. He was like, so wait a second. He's like, so you're telling me that you felt like you were like Zuckerberg, and he's now why is that? He started writing this down. It
yeah.
was
Where he does
great.
this thing with his hand raised. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that was the question that got me too, where I was like, oh shit, that we might actually get some really interesting answer here, where Saylor was talking about how
His
he felt like a
parents,
loser.
yeah, his
He felt like
parents
a
too.
loser.
He
Yeah.
ascribed
Well,
it to his mom. Did you hear that part?
yeah, I saw that part, but the part that really hit me was when Saylor was like, because my company I'm not in the same league as Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, I feel like a loser. And then Jordan Peterson's like, but by all metrics, you are like an outstanding success. and he's like, "Why do you think you still feel like a loser?"
Yeah.
And I found that line of questioning pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
There was a I did notice a tick about Sailor though that I don't know if you caught, but whenever he gets thrown a question that he can't answer, he does this thing where he backpedals to his engineering degree, and he'll
Hmm.
start talking about his aeronautics degree or something. And he does that for every question. And maybe it's just like a business thing that he does just usually. But I thought that was fascinating that anytime he asked him about quantum or like any of these questions that he obviously doesn't know the answers to, he would just backpedal into those into the triad of like all the stuff that he would compare it to. He's like, well, 1 plus 1 is base 10, and then like all this stuff. I was just like, what? Anyways,
Hmm.
I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, and I did where he talks about his engineering degree a lot.
Well, no,
I feel like he.
whenever he like had a question that he you could clearly tell that he didn't know the answer to it, he would just backpedal into his engineering about like he would ascribe quantum. I forget what it was. It was I'd have to go back and watch it. And he would do that time and time again towards the latter half of the episode. And I was just like noticing, I was like, does he do that every time he doesn't know the answer to it? And I was just like questioning, I was like, maybe he does. I was like, maybe there's other interviews where he does do that. But he probably doesn't hang around with enough developers to know the answers to these questions, so you can't fault the guy.
Oh, I felt like he did it. My estimation is he did a pretty good job with most of the questions. I think I get the sense of what you're saying or what you saw, which I think he does fall back to a lot of metaphor, and then he kind of talks about very simple concepts, which I think a lot of metaphor, and, starts very simple, make his point a little more obvious without quantum threat to Bitcoin. Most people don't. Uh, even a lot of very technical Bitcoiners don't. But he did, I think, just at the level that Jordan Peterson can understand. I think he did a pretty good job handling most of the technical questions, which is just going to be a lot of it's just going to be a metaphor because that's metaphor is like the shared surface that we can all kind of discuss because we can all see it, where a lot of technical topics are only visible to engineers.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought overall I thought it was a great episode. Cool. I think that's all the picks that you had. Let's jump into the top stackers of the or
Oh,
no
I
top
wanted to.
stoppers. Oh, go
We had
for
a
it.
meta. But just the one meta was we got got our millionth item on June 7th. So simple stacker. I don't know how they captured the millionth item, but the item with item number 1 million, he posted happy 1 millionth item and
Oh,
shared
really?
a
How did he figure that
yeah.
out?
I would think he saw in the URL bar you can see the item count go up, and they must have been seeing it
So
were getting
what was
close. And
999.9?
I would think he saw in the URL bar you can see the item count go up, and they must have been seeing it
So
were getting
what was
close. And
999.9?